Neal Brown had his regular Monday press conference today, and he wasn't happy.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. This is another episode of Locked On West Virginia. Thank you for being here. Unbelievable already today. I got to tell you, the things that have been going on in and around the program just continue to frustrate. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your last or first listen of the day. This is the Locked On Podcast Network where we talk about your team every single day. Lord have mercy. So Neal Brown had his regular Monday morning press conference today, and my phone is not turned down. Let me turn that down really quick. That's going to get annoying. And he wasn't happy at all. And it was pretty obvious, really short opening. They're usually 5 minutes long-ish, sometimes even longer, especially if they've won. He loves to really talk about what they did well. In this press conference, in my opinion, my personal opinion, he came off defensive. He came off on the offensive just a little bit, and he was snippy. And I'm going to play a clip really quick that just kind of represents exactly the kind of attitude that he's got here lately that I just don't get or understand. It's a completely reasonable question. People want to say that Mike was trying to gotcha moment here, but he wasn't. This is Mike Ostie from West Virginia Sports Now. Check out what he had to say and what Neal said. Let me share screen.
If it wasn't for the Garrett injury, you mentioned before that he wasn't playing poor enough to lose his job yet. Would there be any decision off of?
Did you watch the last two drives for the first half?
He was playing well there, sure.
So I think it's a non-starter, right?
What? What do you mean it's a non-starter? Get out of here. Get out of here, Neal Brown. It's not a non-starter. The dude threw a pick six. He threw 2 picks. Yes, he puts his body on the line for us in this university in the state. Absolutely he does. He's a tough SOB, but that doesn't excuse the fact that he's played as poorly as he has this year. And Neal Brown just continues to do what he's done all the way since JT Daniels. Do you guys remember when Garrett was the better option over JT Daniels even earlier in his career? And yet JT Daniels was ridden till the wheels fell off. There are receivers in that receivers room that I think could possibly play better than the ones we have if they had some more experience. That they don't play. They stick with the same lineup over and over again, and it's insanity over and over again. And while Nico didn't have his best game in the second half against Kansas State, down multiple scores when blood was in the water, I just don't think it was fair for Nico. You can't judge him off that. Judge him off the past performances. He's looked good. He's won a couple games. I don't get it, man. And I just don't think Garrett is capable of, number one, staying healthy totally to do what he does best. That's just my opinion. I think if he's healthy, you got me. If he's healthy, I think he's as dangerous as anybody can be in the league. But that's the issue is he's 190 pounds and can't stay healthy. And so the best version of him we rarely get. He's always going to have something. And as hard as he runs, you've seen what happened to him against Kansas State. They knew how frail he was, which is why they were willing to take a 15-yard penalty to destroy him over on the sideline, to knock him out of the game. It was a great strategy. I mean, if you don't care about people's health, and it happens in football. So my criticism of Garrett Greene from the very beginning has been how frail he is, not how good of a quarterback he is. And then on top of that, though, he just hasn't been that good this year. Not this year. Last year he was great and couldn't really argue against it, but we just don't have the same talent. Just like I said about, we've had a few quarterbacks here in our history that weren't exactly what I would consider, they're not Pat White. They don't make everybody else around them better, even if they're bad or average receivers at certain positions. A guy like Pat White makes up for it. But Garrett Greene is not exactly that, in my opinion. At the receiver spot, it's the opposite. Actually, you need excellent receivers to make up for the lack of accuracy that Garrett has. We're not talking about running here. We're talking about throwing it. And he's been in the 50s for going on 2 years now, completion percentage. You are what your numbers say you are after 2 years. That ain't getting much better. Not without changing venues, going to a different coaching staff or something, and then his time's up. It's fifth year. You're in his fifth year, and he's a one-read quarterback and can't stay on the field. It's time to move on. But guess what? Neal Brown doesn't want to do that either. He's going to go down with the ship with Garrett Greene and everybody else that he deems that worthy of playing time. And that's just how it is. That's how it's been. They do make some changes, but no major ones at any spot. Not any coaching. There's very few, if any, coaching changes. And when they have been made, it's because they've left for bigger or better opportunities. And it's about 50-50 on the staff of who's good and who's not, in my personal opinion. You start with Chad Scott on the elite side of things. You go to Matt Moore, in my opinion, what he's done the last 2 seasons. You can't deny the offensive line coach that he is. I said this all yesterday, but A.J. Jackson, that defensive line is not the issue on this team. In fact, it may be the strength, considering what they've done in the run game and getting pressure on quarterbacks this year. I love what Coons does with our linebackers. They're just really not deep at all. They've got 2-3 players that they can. Where's Caden Beiser at? Where has he been this year? Where has his name slipped my mind all of a sudden? The kid that came out of the state of North Carolina from high school last year, that started as a freshman as well. Somebody can help me here in a second with that. I know his name, but he's number 15. He got a tackle on special teams last week. But anyway, why isn't he playing any? He's not a great cover linebacker. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying like that Josiah or anything needs to be benched, not in any way, shape, or form. I'm just asking questions why there's no depth. If we're in year 6, you shouldn't have these issues at any spot, really. Like, you should be by now in a spot to where you go beyond the starters deep at every single position. The transfer portal has hurt that. I get it. It has, but it's the same for everybody now. Like, we're not blindsided. This isn't 2020 anymore, 2019 or whatever it was when it started really pouring on to us, when Tyke Smith and everybody left, and it was just like, holy crap, Winston Wright and then Ollie Jennings and everybody was leaving, like our really talented players. And it's not like that. And, it's different, unfortunately. So for those of you that didn't see it, I'm going to play the clip one more time. Neal Brown was asked a perfectly reasonable question in his press conference today. And let's see how he answered that. We'll go back to it one more time just because I'm making a quick point. All right. Share the screen. All right.
And so I'm not saying he's out. I think it's too early to tell, so we'll just kind of play it by ear.
If it wasn't for the Garrett injury you mentioned before that he wasn't playing poor enough to lose his job yet, would there be any decision off of?
Did you watch the last 2 drives of the first half?
He was playing well there, for sure.
So I think it's a non-start.
All right, next question.
Who was that was giggling like that in the press box? Did you hear that? Listen to this. Listen to somebody giggling because they knew Mike was about to get swarped by Neal Brown there. Listen to the giggle.
I think it's too early to tell any of that. He didn't practice today, and so I'm not saying he's out. I think it's too early to tell, so we'll just kind of play it by ear.
If it wasn't for the Garrett injury, you mentioned before that he wasn't playing poor enough to lose his job yet. Would there be any decision off of?
Did you watch the last two drives of the first half?
He was playing well there for sure.
All right, next question.
What? Get out of here with that. Sounds like Hunter, maybe. I can't tell though. Somebody laughing about it. It just sounds so smug to me, and I can't stand the smugness. I can be smug at times. Don't get me wrong. I know I can be, but gosh, man, this answer just apparently it bothered me way worse than a lot of other people because I got a lot of hell on Twitter for it, and I'm okay with that. I'm not perfect, I called Neal a narcissist on Twitter early on X, whatever you want to call it, because I feel like he seemed like he's taking the superior stance. And feels like he knows more or better than everybody else around him. And when they question it, it's how dare you question this quarterback situation 2 weeks in a row. I don't think he's a narcissist. I was just mad in the moment, and I'll probably delete it later. But he is. Some things he does these last couple weeks in the press conferences has completely turned me against him. One of his biggest supporters, I had been on the fence for 2 years, really. Last year, he won me back over, and I went head first in the season, hoping that he would win Coach of the Year nationally, whatever. And these last 2 weeks have put me off to the point to where I don't know if he can gain me back again. Even if they won out, I still wouldn't believe. And I'm just telling you the truth. Call me crazy, call me jaded, but wins against Cincinnati, UCF, Baylor, and Texas Tech aren't going to change my mind. They're just not. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, is this team giving up? Should we be looking for that sign where this team actually gives up and stops trying? That's the question. I've got an answer. This is Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. This byproduct and not dehydration is to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. And just remember, Z-Biotics should be your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Here's how you use it. For the best results, take the pre-alcohol with your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. Then enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more about it. You also get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege and use the Locked On College at checkout for 15% off. What is up, guys? We are back on this episode of Locked On West Virginia. The question I think a lot of us want to know the answer to is, and Hail West Virginia asked the question, is West Virginia football on quit watch? After a second consecutive loss this past Saturday, West Virginia dropped to 3-4 overall in the season. The seat Mountaineers head coach Neal Brown sits on rarely has been as hot as it is now, if ever. Maybe not in terms of his relationship with the administration, and the writer says he has no inside knowledge on that situation, so he won't speculate. But for certain, in terms of his relationship with the fans, Brown is now 3-17 against ranked opponents during his tenure in Morgantown and has failed to beat an FBS team in the regular season that has finished with the year with 7 or more wins. Did you hear that? Failed to beat an FBS team in the regular season that has finished the year with 7 or more wins. Never had a win against a team that finished with 7 wins. That's barely bowl eligible. He is 34-33 in his overall tenure, managing to win just 2 winning seasons. Whether he can make it 3 in 6 years remains to be seen, but the results of the last 2 WVU games are trending in the wrong direction, to say the least. Apathy amongst the fan base is running high. Members of the Mountaineer Nation are again calling online for Brown to lose his job. And fans are even donning brown paper bags inside Mile and Pushkar Stadium. I didn't know that. Fans have officially launched a website to stump for the firing of Brown, and while plans didn't come to fruition last weekend, others are attempting to pay a pilot to fire up a Fire Neal Brown banner over Mile and Pushkar Stadium in a home game again. But in my opinion, it isn't necessarily the fans losing confidence that Brown should be the primarily concerned about, but rather his own locker room. The 48-5-18 defeat of Kansas State is the worst loss of the season yet in terms of margin of defeat, and the sixth worst of his tenure. Outside of last season's beating at the hands of Oklahoma, it's the worst for the program since October 2022. And while at least one loss per season of this nature seems to be par for the course during the Brown era, this is the first time since 2019 that such a large loss has happened as the bookend for back-to-back losses. Honestly, the eye test during the second half against Kansas State was even more concerning than those fun figures. The team was down to a touchdown to the Wildcats late in the second quarter, despite 2 Garrett Greene interceptions putting them in the hole early. They then watched a drive to tie the game stall with a turnover on downs in the final seconds of the half as a controversial play call was poorly executed by Greene. Yes, it was. From there, the Mountaineers were outscored 28-8 to end the game and looked relatively lifeless in terms of the competitive drive. Blame it on a game riddled with countless WVU injuries. They certainly didn't help. But watching on Saturday, I couldn't help but feel like I was watching a team that knew it was already beaten. Combine this with Brown dropping a quote during last week's press conference about how fans should continue to turn out despite losses for the fun environment and pregame festivities, and it might spell out some deeper issues in the locker room. Sure, that quip infuriated fans, and they spend their hard-earned money to support a team not consistently finding success on the field. But imagine how it feels to hear that come from the mouth of your head coach, who is supposedly to be the one responsible for leading you to the victory each week. Unbelievable. Great article, by the way. So I think that's a great question, right? Is this team about to quit? I'll tell you this. I spoke to 2 players before the game Saturday. Morale was good. I was told that the coaches do a really good job at keeping them not from getting too down. But it's one thing after one loss. It's one thing after 2 losses. It's one thing after out-looking kind of losses. But we're talking about a season's worth of disappointment at this point. Penn State, horrible. Pitt, heartbreaking. Iowa State, troubling. Kansas State, pulverized. And now you want me to go to Arizona? I can see how they can get in that mindset. And our leader might be hurt. He's not even practicing right now. Valid questions. Let me know in the comments, guys, down below. How do you feel about it? Do you think this team might quit? And if they do you blame them? I don't think they should. And I won't root against our team. That's absolutely for sure. But do we have a player as good as Tack McMillan on our team? The answer is no. We don't have a player within 10 miles, because Wyatt Milam is out. If it wasn't for that, then maybe him. But Tack McMillan's, like Neal Brown said at his press conference today, will be a top 10 pick. So while he's really their only great player, Fafita's taken a step back. They've had a new coaching staff. Hasn't seemed to work out yet. They're still a dangerous squad. I'm my confidence isn't high going into the game, and I'll have Jason Shearer on here tomorrow from Wildcat Authority. He's one of the bigger Arizona names on X. So I'll have him on here tomorrow to talk West Virginia, Arizona. So I'll probably release that. I might wait till later in the week. I haven't really decided when to release that one yet. But I thought it would be prudent to kind of talk about that, guys. So I didn't like the Neal Brown press conference, though, overall. Just to recap really quick, I didn't like the Neal Brown press conference at all. I wasn't happy with how he sounded throughout it. Like I said, the very beginning of it was short and to the point, yeah. But it was obvious that he was upset and has been reading some press clippings this week. I don't think there's any way that you couldn't. He says he lives in a bubble. I don't believe it's 100% of the time, or at the worst, his family or somebody's told him about things people were saying. It's just human nature, especially after the second loss, to look and see what people are saying. I appreciate you guys for the support, by the way. And although I feel the need to engage with Twitter trolls, don't ask me why. I am working on it. But today somebody posted my background information on X. You're free to go look at it. But something I did when I was, almost 10 years ago was posted, when I had gotten in trouble, and they thought this was a gotcha moment for me, not knowing that I'm extremely open and honest about my past with you guys. And there's always going to be people in here every time that may not know about that. But I bring it up every so often, maybe too much. Maybe I'm guilty of that. And I'm sorry if I do. I really do, man. But like, and then not every Twitter burner has been bad. Like, there are some good ones out there too. I'm not saying that there is or isn't, but I've worked really hard to distance myself from that. And it just sucks that somebody from behind a keyboard that at least I don't know and can't identify is trying to attack me using something that's 10 years old. But Fedical, I appreciate that, man. I do. I really do appreciate you for reaching out there. And I misunderstood what you meant earlier, so I wasn't sure how to look into it. All right, guys. So I wanted to get into the basketball side of this and give you guys my take on that. So up next on Locked On West Virginia, that's what I'm going to do, guys. What do I think about this season, this basketball team, and how excited am I? Well, we're going to talk about that. This is Locked On West Virginia. Don't miss this. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff, guys, to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Creation makes it easier to save on sports, deals, concerts, theater, etc. Get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. Or if you don't like the lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time's ticket coverage is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create the account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create the account, redeem the code, and spell LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today and ask yourself, what time is it? It's game time. All right, so this is going to be short because I just got a notification that my order is coming. I think. I'm going to clarify this really quick. Yeah, they're here. Okay, so I don't know what to do about that. So I don't want to leave you guys just sitting here. So I'm just going to hope that they dropped my stuff off. My groceries. I just paid like $150 for, but sorry guys, it's sitting your business. Talking about the basketball team, I was impressed with the Charleston game, very, to the point to where I was a little bit. I mean, rebounding is an issue, and of course, as a fan, I'm going to look at things one in a more negative light. sometimes, or a positive light sometimes. But for the most part, man, I was super impressed with what I saw. A bunch of shooters on the floor. Guys that if you look at all around, like 1 through 5, they got shooters. I thought Tucker looked a little rusty, but you can definitely see he still filled up the stat sheet. And I think that's what he's going to do even on his worst nights. He had 18, a very quiet 18. He's going to have nights where he's going to have 27 and look really great. But in my opinion, outside of Javon Small, Monty Hansberry was the most impressive guy that couple nights ago. He's a guy that can run right at the rim. He's a guy that stretched his game all the way out past 3 to where he can shoot. And he's athletic enough to make centers have to guard him off the perimeter and put it on the deck, and then don't make him have to pass it. He can pass it too. Very impressed with his skill set overall, and I can see why DD has been praising him all offseason. I thought KJ Tenner, for a guy who just hasn't practiced at all, by the way, if you didn't know that, he's been dealing with hamstring injuries since before Italy. And that dude, man, looked good at times. Although he didn't shoot it a bunch, he gets into the lane with consistency and does what a point guard should do, in my opinion, and just kicks it here left and right. I have changed my mind a bunch of times on the team because I just haven't seen him much yet. The depth is going to be an issue. We're going to need Jaden Stone. In my opinion, he's going to be a really key piece. We're going to need him to get into form because he averaged 20 a game last year at Detroit Mercy, and that's like the group of 5 level for college football, or maybe just maybe a step below. But those guys go to the tournament all the time at that level, so they play high level basketball, and he averaged 20 a game. So I think he's going to be a key piece if we can get him going on the bench, because they brought him in to be a microwave, basically off the bench to score at times and be productive. Eduardo Andre is an interesting one because he shows flashes, and I think he'll be, they're going to be games where we're going to need him maybe just a little bit more than Hansberry for certain matchups. He's going to be able to affect shots in the rim and hopefully get us some boards. He's still learning that physicality side of things, but I see why Nelson Hernandez liked him when he brought him over from Fresno. Javon Small is probably the best player on the team right now, but I do think Tucker will overtake him whenever he gets more healthy. But right now it's Javon. Just watching him, he was dynamite. We're lucky to have him. He's good. He's really good. He can do it all. He's Joe Toussaint, but he can shoot threes. That's how I view him. Very, very slow pace. He's like a running back that knows how to press the hole. That's really like a Le'Veon Bell who can press the hole till the hole opens and then hit that thing. Small plays under such control. I love watching him play. So I think he's going to be the biggest piece overall for the glue of the team. Fedigal, what I ordered, by the way, was so I ordered potatoes, a block of Velveeta cheese, carrots, celery, onion. I'm making cheddar bacon potato soup, homemade, which really Velveeta I don't consider homemade, but it makes a dang good potato soup. Then I'm going to put some crackers in it. I was going to do cornbread, but I decided not to. Then I got some stuff for steaks. I got some frozen lobster that was kind of cheap. I got my guilty pleasure, Ben & Jerry's ice cream, which is the Tonight Dough. If you've never had the Tonight Dough, it's got Jimmy Fallon on it. It's my guilty pleasure now. So look at me. Yeah. What else? Hamburger, a big roll of hamburger. There wasn't much. I'll tell you that. Like you get you look up, go look at, if you ever get a chance to look up in 1950, 12, there's a woman who it showed in 1950. They did it for historical so people can look back on it. Now you can. In 1950, a woman is sitting on a blanket showing what you could buy for $12.50. Now $12.50 maybe gets you 1 to 2 items. Crazy. And she got what I probably got and more for that, so obviously times have changed. But yeah, love potato soup, especially the way my mom showed me how to make it. It's definitely good. And if you haven't used It's not healthy for you, but if you haven't used the big blocks of Velveeta cheese like you make dips with and stuff to make potato soup, highly suggested. It's restaurant quality. Like the cheese is not what I would consider. It's not real cheese. It's pasteurized cheese, really, but it's like that government cheese. It's the closest I can find to it. So let me get off this topic before I get in trouble for talking about it this long. All right, guys, thank you for joining me on this episode. I got to run. I hope my groceries are out there and hopefully nothing's melted. But thanks for being patient with me, guys. We'll talk tomorrow. But until then, have a great night. Let's go, Mountaineers. This episode's over, and I'm out.